Hello. Hello, my friends. It has been a very long time since I went live. And I am at the airport waiting for Lou to come in. So I thought I would jump on, go live, chat, answer some questions. Let's see. Ooh, that's better. Drink some coffee. And chat about recovery. So, somebody asked me a question this morning about extreme hunger and if it was possible to recover without giving in to your extreme hunger. And so let's talk about what extreme hunger is. Extreme hunger is what happens when you have an eating disorder, right? And you've been restricting, your hormones and neurotransmitters are all wonky, regulating in the wrong directions. And as you eat in recovery, I'm spilling coffee all over myself, they start regulating in the right way. Hello, my friends. I'm waiting for Lou to come in at the airport, and I got here and her plane is very delayed. So I thought I would jump on a live. So if you have any recovery questions, send them my way. Otherwise, we were just talking about if you can recover from a restrictive eating disorder without giving into your extreme hunger. And so I'm sure there is the miraculous few people that do recover from their eating disorder without giving into extreme hunger. There's always those rule breakers. There's always those outliers. But the thing is, if you are not giving into your extreme hunger, you are restricting, right? If you have an entire pizza and you want to eat a cheeseburger after that, and you don't, you're restricting, right? That's teaching your brain that you're still in a famine environment. That's teaching your brain that, there's still not enough food around. And so your brain is like, okay, there's plenty of pizzas, but there's definitely not enough burgers in the world. There's not enough burgers. We're in a burger famine. We still need to be in our anorexia mindset. And it will keep you in that eating disorder mindset until you give in and eat all of the fear foods and all of the things that your brain wants you to eat. And so in the beginning of recovery, I would say, in the beginning of my recovery, I did not give into my extreme hunger very well. I would eat some extreme hunger, then I would restrict. I would eat some extreme hunger and then I would skip lunch, right? I would eat all the pancakes in the world, but I wouldn't have whatever on them. So definitely you can still move along in your recovery without giving into your extreme hunger. But here's the thing. There's gonna come a point when you realize that you have to do that. You have to give in to that extreme hunger and you have to eat that food. Otherwise, you're restricting, and restriction is an eating disorder behavior, okay? So eventually, in order to get rid of your eating disorder, you will have to give in and eat that food. Is it possible that miraculously you could get to the end of recovery without, some people don't experience extreme hunger, right? That could happen, absolutely. But for most of us, 99% of us, you're going to have extreme hunger. And yes, you are going to have to give into that extreme hunger at some point to recover. I didn't give into mine in the beginning of recovery. I was too afraid. When I first got extreme hunger, I was too afraid. But there did come a point in my extreme hunger where eventually I had to be like, you know what? Fuck this. I have to do it. I have to give in. I have to eat all the food. And so would I have fully recovered if I didn't give into that extreme hunger? Probably not. No, because I would have been restricting, right? Let's say I ate the whole pizza and then I had the whole Big Mac meal, right? Let's say I ate all of that. And then my brain was like, ooh, ice cream. Is there ice cream in the fridge? If I didn't go in and eat the ice cream, my brain, not a normal person's brain, right? My brain, who has an eating disorder, would be like, oh man, there's no ice cream in the environment. We're in an ice cream famine. And my brain would stay in its eating disorder mindset. So that's why it's so important for us, people with an eating disorder, people that have restricted, to give into that extreme hunger and eat it. Hi. So if you just got here, I'm at the Sacramento airport, literally in the hourly parking. Luckily, there's a beautiful breeze going by. I have no idea what the temperature is, but I went in, I got myself an iced coffee, and I peed, and I didn't feel like hanging out in there wearing my mask, and then the microphone things kept going off, and I thought, I don't know about you, but my car is my safe place. I love my car. I can hang out in my car all day long, so tell me if you're the same. Hi. Yeah, I could literally live in my car and have no problem at all. I love my car. I don't know. It's where I like to be all the time. So if you just got here and there is something that you want to talk about, let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably going to just chat about recovery stuff. I'm going to drink my coffee. Which is probably going to have to make me go pee again. And then I'm going to have to go in there. Hi! How are you today? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're eating lots of food. I hope you're eating to your extreme hunger. I hope you're eating to your mental hunger. Because that can really be a mind fuck when we get mental hunger, right? Oh, I miss you too. How do you convince people you're doing your best? Oh, man. That is so... It is so difficult because, first of all, the people in our life that don't have an eating disorder, it's hard for them to understand even what your best is, right? Because they don't have this thing in their head. So one thing that helped me was that, first of all, I tried to explain to the people in my life what this was like. And one of the ways I did that was, like, specifically for my father, he has a fear of spiders. So I told him, because he could never understand. He was always like, now that you know you have an eating disorder, you can just eat, right? Now that you know you have it, you're all cured, right? That's what he used to tell me. And I would be like, well, Dad, you're afraid of spiders, right? So what if like I served you breakfast and it had spiders all over it? Because that's what it's like for us, right? That's what eating is like for us. It's as terrifying as somebody else's primal fear. It's like a fear of flying. It's like a fear of snakes. For my dad, it was a fear of spiders. And I was like, what if I served you breakfast that way? And he's like, well, I probably wouldn't eat it. And I was like, right, you wouldn't eat it. Just like I don't eat breakfast, right? But eventually you have to recover. You have to eat to survive. So you would pick around those spiders and you would eat that breakfast, right? And you would get that down and you would be so excited and you would do your best, right? But then what if lunchtime comes around and I served you your lunch with spiders on it again? Then what would you do? And he's like, well, and he started to realize that it's not one fear. It's not one moment. It's all day, every day that we're fighting this fear. All day, every meal, every snack. And it's in between meals and snack. It's thinking of the next meal. It's thinking about the last meal. It's worrying about our next snack. It is constant, right? So the first thing I did was explain to the people in my life, the people that were willing to listen, what it was like. And I used that example. My mom was afraid of snakes. I used snakes. My dad was afraid of spiders. I used spiders. If somebody's afraid of flying, use flying. Like, compare it to one of their primal fears. One of their fears that hits that fight or flight spot. And then they can kind of understand just a little bit more, right? And then hopefully you can educate them with some stuff that's online. That always helped too. And then honestly, some people are not going to get it, right? Some people aren't going to get it because it's a weird fucking thing. It is a weird thing to have an eating disorder and to be afraid of food. It makes no sense to a lot of people, right? That's just the way it's going to be. And I guess, like, when it comes to my family, at some point, I would get really angry at them, right? When they would think I wasn't doing my best. But then I had to check in with myself, like, was I doing my best? Was I really eating all the things I could be eating? And usually there was a few more things that I could do. So specifically with, like, my youngest kid, with Eva, I would be like, I hear you, that you are feeling like I'm not trying my best. Like, what would you like to see me do more of? what would really be helpful to you, right? And then see if you can find somewhere in the middle. Maybe they're afraid because you're not eating all day long, right? And you could be like, okay, maybe I'll try to add a snack in there for you. You're in recovery, right? We need to be making these choices anyway, right? So maybe we can see where their fear is coming from, because honestly, they have a real fear. You're literally starving yourself. You are starving yourself in front of them. You are dying in front of them, and they love you. So they're terrified, right? It's like if you watched one of your family members jump out of an airplane without a parachute, you would be scared to death for them. They would be falling to their death. Well, that's what we're doing. We're starving ourselves and we're dying in front of the people that love us, right? So they have every right to be afraid and to be terrified. And then we start recovering. And then they get very confused because they think, oh, you're recovering. Now it's going to be better, right? So maybe educate them to how long it takes to recover. On average, it takes up to 7 years to fully recover from this. Up to 7 years. It took me, I think, 2.5 to 3 years to recover from the point that I got extremely serious. It took 2.5 to 3 years. So it takes a very long time to recover, and that is if you are so recovered. I mean, so in. That is if you are so like, you don't have to jump all in, but you do have to keep moving forward, right? There is no like, I'm in recovery, I'm not in recovery, I'm in recovery, I'm not in recovery. So even if you are jumping in it head first, it takes years to recover. So maybe make sure that they know that as well, right? And then can you let them in a little bit? Let them know what you've been doing. Hey, it may not look like I've been doing a lot, but I've really been tackling this fear. I've been tackling, and I don't know, if this is your parents, you might want to tell, you might not be talking about purging or laxative abuse or those kind of things. But is there some things that you can show them? Some things that you can really say? Like, hey, I used to eat 2 meals a day and now I eat 3. This is huge, but I need to pause here. Because if I don't pause at 3 meals a day, if I keep trying to truck forward right now, I'm going to panic and I'm going to run back and relapse. So let them know honestly where you're at. Say, hey, I'm doing my best right now. If I push it a little harder, I'm afraid I'm going to relapse. So I'm just going to stay steady for a minute. But be honest, I'm not going to stay steady forever. Can you give me a couple weeks? And then I'm going to add another meal. Then I'm going to add another snack. Okay? So I think the thing they fear most is that we're not talking to them and that we're not open. And if we're not open and talking to them about stuff, then they think the worst, right? And rightly so, because we were doing the worst, right? We were literally killing ourselves. So of course they're scared to death. So sometimes I feel like if we're just a little bit open and we have that little bit of communication with them, then they're not so afraid because they know what's going on. And when people know what's going on, they have a little bit less fear, right? Is it normal to eat every 5 minutes with mental hunger? It's not only normal, but it is common, extremely common. Many of us, including me, felt this way. And it was for me, it wasn't just that I was eating every 5 minutes, but in that 5 minutes, I wasn't eating, I was thinking of food. As I'm eating one thing, my brain is thinking of what I'm going to eat next. Even if I was full, even if I was stuffed, I was consistently and regularly, I must have spent over 6 months just consumed with what I was going to eat next, and what I was going to eat next, and what I was going to eat next. And that is so normal. And it makes sense, right? Think of a normal eater. Think of a normal eater in your life. Now think about removing food from their lives, right? Restrict them. Take their food away. They're starving. What does a starving person think about? They think about food. Now, think about that normal eater in your life that you've taken food from and they're starving. Think about reintroducing food to them. Oh my God, they're going to go crazy. They're going to want to eat all the food. They're going to think about it all the time. They're going to think about it every 5 minutes. That is normal. And if you are thinking of food every 5 minutes, guess what? that means you're doing something right in recovery. That means your neurotransmitters and your hormones are starting to regulate again in the right way, and you are even closer to the end of recovery. So those are great signs. Extreme hunger and mental hunger are really good signs in recovery, right? Because a lot of times we shut our hunger down and we end up not having hunger signals at all. And that's really hard too, right? I agree with you because my parents told me to agree with geriatric people. My mom is afraid of clowns. I told her it's like, I love that. It's like having a clown with you 24/7. Could you imagine if your mom had to eat with a clown? Imagine if your mother had to eat with a clown for every meal. And then she gets through one meal and she's like, oh my gosh, I barely did it. She would probably restrict her next snack. She would probably eat the smallest she could every single day if she had to eat with clowns. It's so true. I have the opposite issue with my parents. They're worried about me eating too much in recovery. This is also so common. And not just with your parents, but it's also very common. I hate to say it, but doctors often are worried about this too. Some dietitians get hung up and worried about this. And it just boggles my mind, because if you want to eat something and you have an eating disorder and you don't eat it, you are restricting, and that is an eating disorder behavior. And we want you to get away from eating disorder behaviors, right? So it's like, it's the opposite of what you should be doing. And I know it comes from a good place, right? Your mom is like probably full of fat phobia or, diet culture. And she's worried that you're going to go the other way. She's worried you're going to eat too much. She's worried you're going to get binge eating disorder. But guess what? People do not go from restrictive eating disorders to binge eating disorders. They don't. Those are two different eating disorders. And you just simply cannot have both of them. You cannot have the evolutionary genetic predisposition for anorexia and the evolutionary predisposition for binge eating disorder, because binge eating disorder is an evolutionary predisposition. It's something that evolved in us to help us get through times of famine, to help us get through times of little food, just like anorexia is something that helped us get through famine and times of little food a long time ago. So they both served the same purpose a long time ago, right? One is to eat a lot when food was around because food was scarce, right? And even now, there's this tribe that doesn't have a lot of food. And man, I think it's in, I'm not going to tell you where it's at. If you want to know, you'll have to DM me or something, because I will tell you the wrong place. But they have evolved with these birds to make this certain noise, and then the bird comes along and they connect, and the bird leads them to honey. This is how they find honey. Then they go find the honey, and what do they do when they find the honey? They gorge on it. They binge eat. They eat as much as they can until they're sick, and then they eat more. That's how they survived. That's how some people in history survive. But you, with a restrictive eating disorder, that is not you, and that will not be you. And I know that's your mom's fear, right? I know that's many doctors' fear, but it simply will not happen. And I wonder if maybe there's some way that we can educate her. Is there some way that we can give her some statistics on this? Mom, this just simply does not happen. People that think they have binge eating disorder after anorexia, if you really look closely, you will see that they are restricting somewhere. They are restricting outside of those binges. That means that those binges are not from binge eating disorder, but they are actually from restriction and their restrictive eating disorder. So that's what you will find. People are they're not swinging from anorexia to binge eating disorder, and it will not happen to you. But I know the fear is real. The fear is real for your mom. And maybe you can just tell her, let's face the fear. I'd rather be in a big body than a body with an eating disorder, right? I would rather be in my big body than a body with an eating disorder. Absolutely. Because a body with an eating disorder, really close to death, right? We've lived it. We've been there. It's horrible. It's miserable. That's why we want to recover, right? And so it's really hard when your mom is saying stuff like that. And not only are you fighting your eating disorder, not only are you fighting anorexia, but now you're fighting the people that are supposed to be there on your side and cheer you along. So there's got to be some way that we can try to educate your mom into, realizing that this simply is not going to happen. I know Tabitha Farrar has some really good YouTube videos, I think, on this. And there's adaptedtofamine.com. I think there's still some stuff you can print there for families. But we really just need to educate those people around us to realize that this is just simply not going to happen. I've been talking to someone in my DMs on Instagram who's, when they started recovery, their mom jumped in and really started reading all the research. And because of that, this mother is encouraging her child to eat all the food, to eat through extreme hunger, to eat every single thing they want, everything they crave, all of their foods. And you know what? That is going to get that person to the end of recovery. That is how you're going to get to full recovery. It's not by watching what you eat, and it's not by managing your intake through calories or fats or any of those things. There is no eating too much in recovery, because if you were in a tribe, if you were in a group of people and you were starving, right? What if your mother was starving? If she was living in a starving body, right? Malnourished and starving, and you finally let go and found food, because that's what happened. You have an eating disorder. You taught your brain it's in a famine. Your brain thinks there's a famine environment. Then you start eating, so then your brain is like, oh, there's food around. We're not in a famine, right? So if that happened to your mother, even a normal eater, even someone without an eating disorder, if you went through that and you were starving and you came out the other side, you would want to eat all the food, and you would eat all the food until your hormones were regulated, until your brain chemistry re-regulated, until you reached your set point. You might go into a little bit of overshoot. That's no big deal. Overshoot comes off. What you won't do is go into a body higher than your set point. That's what you won't do. You might go into overshoot, or you might just hit your set point, and that's where you're going to be. And then those cravings and all that feeding that you'll want to do, it'll just naturally slow down, because that is what your body is made for. That is what your body will fight for. Absolutely. Hi, someone, hey, what is your opinion on overeating? I overeat now a year and some after recovery, and I have a big belly. I have a big belly. Here's the thing. We are conditioned to think that we need to be in a small body. That is not the case. Some of us, 10% of us maybe, are supposed to be in a small body, in a thin body with a concave stomach. That is a tiny, tiny percentage of us. Most of us, me included, have a belly. I have a big belly. Many of us have a belly. If we don't, we have thighs, or we have arms. We have bodies that have weight on them, that have size to them. That is normal. That is normal. And when you have an eating disorder, you have to get used to that, because if you don't, you're going to have an eating disorder, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to living with your big belly or living with an eating disorder. And you are not overeating. You are not overeating. It might feel that way because you had years of restriction, right? Even now, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, did I eat a lot today? It feels like I ate all day long. You're not eating all day long. You're eating what you need to eat, right? Perhaps your body right now in your belly, maybe this is your set point, right? Maybe this is the set point that your body needs to be at to live without an eating disorder. That is entirely likely that this body you're in right now is your set point, and it's where you need to be without an eating disorder, because most of us don't recover into these tiny little stick figure bodies. We just don't. We don't recover into the like Megsy recoveries or Rebecca Lungs or like whoever those people are on Instagram and YouTube. We don't recover into that, right? And who knows? I'm guessing they're recovered. They say they're recovered, but we don't really know, right? But it's very, very few people that get to recover into that. And so instead of thinking that you have a big belly, I would encourage you to go to Instagram, to go to TikTok, to go to YouTube, wherever you fill yourself with that kind of content, and really change who you're seeing, change who you're looking at, and make sure that you're looking at people who look like they have normal sized bodies, who have big bellies, who have big thighs, who have big arms, because look around in the real world. That's who's out there. If you walk down the street in any city, that's who's out there. That's what a normal body is. These people are eating what they want to eat, they're doing what they want to do, and they're having normal bodies, right? And they're not walking around with stick figures. They're walking around with bellies and thighs and all that. Like, I hate overdraft fees so much, and I always spend money here and there and then forget about it, and then all of a sudden I wake up in the morning and it's like overdraft. Ridiculous. So I have to set an alarm every single night. So in short, I promise you're not overeating. What I would wonder is if you're just in your body, if this is just your body, and if it is your body, are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to live a life without an eating disorder? And I think you will, because goddamn, it's fun, huh? Why do I always think everybody else has an ED? Me! When I was in recovery, this is super common. Hands down, you're in recovery, or you have an eating disorder. I'm hoping you're in recovery, but hands down, when we are in recovery, when I was in an eating disorder, when I had my eating disorder, I didn't want to think of everybody else. I had radar for eating disorders. I think we do. We all know when other people have eating disorders. But my poor children, if you don't know, I have 2 kids, Eva and Lou, and goddamn, when I was in recovery, I was convinced they had an eating disorder at least 17 times. Sometimes I would even approach them and be like, it's okay. If you do, you can talk to me. Like I think I even accused one of them of purging at one point. Like, oh my God, I used to talk to my therapist about it. I just feel like we are so hyper aware of what everybody's eating, what their intake is, what they're expending, and normal people have light eating days, right? Normal people fluctuate. We can't in recovery. Don't get me wrong. There's no fluctuating for you. We need to eat a shit ton. But normal eaters, like my kids, they would have a really light day here and there. And when they did, I was all over that shit. I was positive they had eating disorders, both of them, multiple times. I even accused them. And one time Lou was even like, stop projecting your eating disorder on me. I'm like, that's what I was doing. And it's perfectly normal when you have an eating disorder. It is. We're so hyper aware of food. We're hyper aware of what everybody's eating, what they're doing, what they're not doing. And here's the thing. When you recover, that will mellow out. When you'll recover, you'll realize that everybody just eats differently. And you know what? Some of them might have eating disorders. I'm sure they absolutely do. I'm sure some of them do. But you'll realize a lot of that just has to do with you being hyper aware of all the food and the intake and the movement and everything around you. Because man, I couldn't go anywhere without I could have tell you what everybody had to eat 4 weeks ago on a Tuesday. I could have told you what everybody around me ate, how many calories it added up to, if it was enough or not. Oh my gosh, my poor kids. They struggle with me. Let's see where I am. How do you deal with compulsive lower level movement? Okay, well, this was tough. This was tough for me because after I quit the gym, that shit started. I mean, and I always did it a little bit, but after I quit the gym, it went crazy. But for me, part of it was just not doing it, right? But there's a flip side to lower level movement. And the flip side to lower level movement is that we can't sit still, right? So for me, I tackled trying not to do it, right? Trying not to walk up and down the staircase 100 times. I tackled that. But also, one of the big things that helped me was challenging my ability to rest and sit. So that's where I might start with you. Honestly, if you can't sit down for a half hour and watch a show on Netflix or something, that's where you can start. And I don't mean at the end of the night after you've restricted and after you've done enough movement and after you've earned your resting, right? I mean in the middle of the day. I mean in the morning. So for me, I started in the middle of the day. I just took 30 minutes and I sat there and it was painful. I probably cried. I cried every time. I cried when I quit purging. I cried when I quit laxative. I cried and was very angry. God, I was mean, and I was very mean. But you have to just learn to rest. That's the flip side of that lower level movement. A lot of people try to stop moving, but you have to learn how to just sit, okay? Just sit. So set a timer, turn on a show, 30 minutes, you're just going to sit there, okay? And you're going to just sit there without compensating around it. Not going to compensate before, not going to compensate after. It's kind of like anything else we do in recovery, right? You have to do it. You have to feel that nothing bad happens. Then you can move on. That's how it works. That's how all of recovery works. That when you stop purging, when you eat fear foods, it's all kind of the same thing. You have to do it, and you just start small enough. If a half hour is too much and you know you're going to compensate, 15 minutes. Let's stop for 15 minutes. Let's just sit our ass down, turn on a show, watch some Netflix, look through some TikToks, I don't know, whatever you like to do, and just sit there for 15 minutes. At a time when you wouldn't normally do that, right? Let's learn how to stop our bodies. That's how we start stopping that lower level movement. Because lower level movement is like standing, fidgeting, moving, cleaning, scrubbing. Oh my God, if I had a moment, I was cleaning out the entire fridge, right? Like that's the kind of shit that we have to stop. But I couldn't stop it because I couldn't sit. I could never just sit. So start by trying to just pause and sit for a minute, okay? And after you do that, you can stop that lower level movement. You could be like, okay, I'm not going to walk up and down the stairs today. That's it. Nope, not going to do it. And then you just have to white knuckle it. And then you have to just do it and not compensate. It's going to feel horrible and it's going to feel bad. This shit is hard. It is going to feel bad. There is no amount of like warm blankets or cozy books or Netflix that's going to feel as good, right, as lower level movement or purging or any of these things. It serves a purpose for us, but that doesn't mean we get to do it, right? Heroin serves a purpose for people too, but that doesn't mean that people should do it. We cannot be doing this stuff. So you stop it, it feels like shit, and then you realize nothing bad happens. If you run back to your eating disorder, if you start compensating after, that just means you made too big of a jump. You did a little too much at once. So maybe you just do 10 minutes first, right? It's okay to take baby steps. I took baby steps for like a year. I took baby steps for a long time. I still got there. You'll still get there. You just don't want to go backwards, okay? I hope that helped. Oh, someone said 2002 diet culture. I don't know what that means. Oh, there goes an airplane. I wonder when Lou's getting here. Guys, I'm waiting for Lou. I'm at the Sacramento airport. Lou's plane is delayed like an hour, so I went in and I got coffee. I have no idea how much this day parking is going to be, but that's how it is. It was that or drive around Sacramento for a while, and I didn't want to do that. You made me choose recovery. Aw, here's the thing. You chose recovery, and it is hard, and I am proud of you because it's brutal. It's brutal and it's difficult, but oh my God, it's so worth it. When I was sick, I couldn't eat this. No way. No way could I eat this. And I went through such a wild ride in recovery, honestly. And this trip, I've been on vacation, and I'll tell you, I can remember going on vacation and never being able to go on a drive-through, right? Because I was scared to death of them. They were horrifying. Then I had to go through, in my extreme hunger days, I had to go through every drive-through there was because I had to eat all the food. I had to eat all the Sonic. I had to eat all the In-N-Out. I had to eat like everything, the ice cream, the slushies, you name it. Now I drive by a fast food and I'm just like, am I hungry? Decide if I want to eat or not, right? So recovery, God, it's so worth it. And I'm so glad you chose it. I'm so glad. Have trouble recognizing naturally thin bodies anymore. I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe you mean like you're having trouble recognizing naturally thin from sick bodies. I would say when you have an eating disorder, you assume everybody is sick, right? And I mean, goddamn, I still kind of assume everybody's sick, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I assume many people are disordered. I just feel like everybody doesn't have an eating disorder, but everybody likes to keep their body under where it naturally wants to be, which really sucks in a world where we're trying to overcome an eating disorder, and we have to face that all the time, honestly. Thank you for not making me feel strange. I thought it was just me. Oh my gosh, honestly, I never set out to do a TikTok or any of this stuff ever. Honestly, I had just like recovered, and in recovery, I used to talk to Lou about all this shit all the time. And I used to talk to Lou about a lot of this stuff. And one day she just like opened up the TikTok and was like, and asked me a question. And I was just like, you know, there's just so much shit that people don't talk about, that people don't say, that people are afraid to say. I don't know why people don't talk about it. Like, talk about the fact that you shit your pants. I don't know. I've done it. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's talk about extreme hunger. Let's talk about the fact that every single one of us thinks we're getting binge eating disorder. Every single one of us thinks that. There's a reason we all think that, right? It's because we all have an eating disorder. There's hormonal reasons that we all think that once we start eating, we're going to eat forever. You know, and it's this shit that we have to talk about so that we don't feel strange, because you're not strange. There's a reason that we all feel exactly the same when we have an eating disorder, and we're all afraid of the same shit, and we all do the same stuff. It's because it's all our brain chemistry and our hormones and our neurotransmitters that are flipped around wonky. Hi, Alyssa. Oh, I hope you're doing good. I want good news. How do you feel about those recovery accounts that literally don't gain weight and do outfit checks? I don't follow them. Here's the thing. I used to follow them. I used to follow, like, I used to love Megsy Recovery, and honestly, I still love her as a human being. Rebecca, all of them. I can't do it. In my recovery, like, some people say, hey, recovery mom, why do you do full day of eatings? Why do you do what I eat in a day? Here's the thing. I do those because they helped me in my recovery. I never, ever ate normally in my entire life. I've never eaten normally, ever. So those helped me navigate how to eat and what to eat, okay? So that's why I do those. One thing that was extremely triggering to me in my recovery and would send me back to anorexia every time were recovery accounts with skinny bodies. Now, these people might be completely recovered. I don't know. Maybe they're living life completely recovered and they're just luckily have those super skinny bodies. Maybe they do. I couldn't watch them. I couldn't do it. So you just have to do what works for you. For me, I had to clean out my feed of all of that shit. I cannot have them on there. I love Megsy Recover. She was wonderful. She helped me recover for a while. But now she's just too skinny. She's too skinny for me. She's probably healthy for herself, but I just can't do it. Same thing with Rebecca Lung or many of those other people that, you know, people watch. Hannah Arts. I don't know. All those. I just can't do it. So I fill my recovery feed with people in normal sized bodies, bigger bodies, bodies more like me, bodies that I want to see represented. And I just have to do that. I have to do that for me, for my sanity. And now that I'm fully recovered, I just do it because I think it's right, because it feels right to me. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to have to go pretty soon because I think Lulu's going to get here. Oh, the news isn't great. That makes me so sad. You have to jump right back on board. I got rid of my best friend who kept encouraging me to stay in my disorder and pause my recovery. Good job. People who want you to stay in a little body, they have to go. They have to go. It's hard enough to recover. It is hard enough to recover. Dun, dun, dun. All right, let's see, guys. I think Lou's going to get here soon, so I'm going to have to go. You guys, I love that you were talking to each other in the chat. I feel like it was a big step for my recovery, but I'm very scared. I'm so glad you got rid of him or her, whoever it was. You have to do that for your recovery. When you're well, you'll be able to see clearly. I promise you. The thing is that I love most about this account is the people in the comments that help each other. Hands down, you guys are the most wonderful human beings ever. Like, even right there, the next person says, I'm so glad you did this. I had a friend that would ask me how to starve. Thank you so much. It's hard. Honestly, you guys are the best. I have to go get Lou. But if Lou is in a good mood, we'll jump back on and we'll do a live on our way back from Sacramento to Modesto. I just want to say thanks. You guys are amazing. And a lot of people tell me, you know, thank you, blah, blah, blah. I don't do anything but sit here on my ass and drink my coffee. You're the one eating the fear food. You're the one not purging and sitting with that shit. You're the one not taking the laxative. You're the one doing the hard work. You're doing it, not me. And it is fucking hard. It is so hard. I know how hard it is. I know it. I will never forget how hard it is. I won't. And I just love you guys. You guys are honestly the best.